Hey everybody, welcome. We got Sohun on today. Sohun is the founder of Clankers. He comes from Yuka, Reacher, where he's got a deep background in TikTok and understanding how this channel works. He's leveraging that expertise and combining it with AI to build or help brands and agencies build their own AI workflows, which is an exciting cutting edge area that we should all learn about and improve upon. I have 50 million questions. I'll try to keep it tight, but let's start with the top. How do you see how AI is changing how e-commerce leaders manage and analyze channels like TikTok? What can we do to leverage that?
Yeah, so the way TikTok is changing with AI now is that every single person in the company now has access to every single data point. And with these different outreach tools like Cruva, right? They're essentially these big repositories of all your TikTok shop affiliate marketing data that exist, and they're easily accessible through Claude. So you can go and ask Cruva like, "Hey, how is my GMV rising for affiliate and what are the key drivers behind that? Or like what creatives are fatiguing in my ads manager? Or if you're an agency across all 15 accounts, give me the best performing creatives that work on my beauty brands, something like that, right? All this data and analysis is easily accessible by just typing in English into a box. And so that's fundamentally changing things from just looking at, oh, how is CAC to LTV look like on an omni-channel level, or like, are we efficient? Because like that might not be the real driver or component of the model that causes your TikTok shop revenue to increase.
So do you think leveraging, like you said, Cruva and let's say Claude or GPT or your favorite AI, you're saying that people can plug that in to these data repositories and then have a natural language conversation about what's going on?
So the way these tools like Cruva and Claude connect together is something called
Yeah.
MCP, which means
Uh-huh.
Model Context Protocol. It's a way for models to talk to each other. So if Claude is telling another model or another platform, which is Cruva, hey, can you go and send this message? They communicate through the language called MCP. So you're able to essentially have Claude go and be your sort of manager or director or orchestrator with these other platforms that are out in the.
So give me an example of that. Like, what do you think is a good use case or a good example that you're seeing at Clankers?
Yeah. So one of the things that we're doing with our brands is we're really helping streamline onboarding, and we're trying to make that fully agentic. So going to get super in the weeds here. What a lot of
Do it.
brands do right now, or what a lot of agencies do right now, is they have an onboarding form where they get all the things that they need to sort of understand about the brand to launch a campaign, whether it's the past performing creative, the creator personas or customer personas, approved messaging, different sampling quotas, budgets, incentive targets, things like that, right? Everything that sort of plugs into your TikTok shop launch strategy. And what I find is that there's no real reason why AI just can't use that data to create an automation directly within Cruva pretty much instantaneously. Because what these people are doing is they're going and giving it to a low skill leveled account manager or overseas person to just go and copy paste a message and set something up within Cruva. But if you have Claude who already understands how to do all that, the only thing it's missing is just that onboarding form context. So now what brands and agencies are doing is they're taking a form with all the information needed to start affiliate outreach, giving it to Claude, and it sets up and runs their entire affiliate outreach pretty much instantaneously, which saves a ton of time for onboarding and activation for agencies and for brands. They don't have to log into platforms like Cruva as much. They can just do it directly from Claude and then move on to another task.
So you're taking the data, which is all the creators, and then the context, which is like briefing and things like that, and then combining, or Claude's combining them, right? And leveraging that into a workflow that feeds you best and brightest creators or whatever filters you want.
Yeah, basically, when Claude is connected to Cruva via MCP, it's already essentially someone who has been trained on Cruva for like a year. That's what it is. So you're just giving a
Uh,
person who's been trained on Cruva for a year context on what to do today. That's all it is.
gotcha. So it's like basically like getting a new employee, right? Well, actually, a semi-experienced employee.
Yeah, I mean, to pay market rate for someone who really understands these outreach tools, it just doesn't really matter anymore because you just need to get an SOP from a consultant and then just go give it to Claude plus Cruva and then adapt it to your brand's tone and approved messaging templates and their economics. So I think it's going to completely change the labor market as well and demand for TikTok shop expertise, because like AI has everything that it needs now.
This is a really interesting point. As AI gets better, and it seems like it's only going to get better and smarter, when you could just talk to somebody who has all the information immediately available to them, meaning Claude, what does the future of work look like? Which is, I think, is the big question everybody's trying to answer. But when it comes to like TikTok and e-commerce, it seems like the earliest and easiest use case is data analysis, like you're talking about here, onboarding, outreaching, basically things where the outcomes are objective and easy to measure, and Claude can just go and execute for you.
I think with TikTok shop, it's not like fully solved. So I don't think that's happening yet. I think like people don't really understand how to consistently scale accounts on TikTok shop. Otherwise, these
Mm.
agencies wouldn't be stuck in like 20 account jail, where like they're
Mhm.
constrained by 1 to 2 operators' flexibility to test fast. So in cases like email marketing or SMS marketing, where there's just tried and true ways to consistently add on or increase, LTV by 20%, like that's different because there's a playbook, there's context, and it follows a very repeatable pattern that you can give to AI. For TikTok shop, there is a lot of ambiguity. And for that initial point you mentioned, getting someone who knows everything, like where is that person?
Mhm.
I only know like 2 or 3 people who know a lot, and even
Yeah.
then, like they're not sharing everything, and they might not even know what made their project successful. They might just be doing things intuitively and missing things that AI would need to capture to execute really autonomously.
You bring up a really good point, and something that I think maybe a lot of people don't understand is like you said, email marketing. I would even say like Amazon. We've done Amazon for 10 years now, and to your point about it being quote unquote solved, I do feel like there's very, very clear playbooks to drive success on Amazon. We're able to do it consistently, and I feel like that's kind of known. Whereas TikTok, everything is changing so quickly. Even in the past year, it's changed so quickly. Even if you did know what worked 6 months ago or a year ago, that might not be what's working now because the platform's still evolving and developing.
Exactly, fully agreed. Another component to that right now is there isn't enough good creators. And people don't understand what steps to make a creator go from new to good are. So therefore there's also an incubation problem. So like the
Mhm.
system really isn't ready for like full AI handoff yet. Like I'm pretty confident someone could run email marketing with AI through a script. I know people who've automated Amazon media buying. That fully exists right now, but for TikTok shop, it's just too ambiguous and there's ecosystem issues.
And so, speaking of, how are you leveraging AI, with those changes? Like, is there a way that we can ensure that not only does Claude, let's say, execute on one of these workflows, but then also as, let's say, the platform changes or the strategy changes, that AI can then get better or change the workflow or even be prompted to change the workflow? Like, how do you make sure that it just doesn't get stuck doing the same thing without improving, or can it be improved?
I mean, there's a ton of improvement mechanisms you guys can do for AI. It's something called like recursive learning loops. So, as long as you perform a test, give AI the results of that test, and then use the best part of that test to start a new test and do that cycle again, you will create better and better outcomes that AI associates the patterns between. And now, with that context of knowing which outcome is best, it will be better than it was before. So like that's how you like train AI. It's called recursive learning. And so agencies have a unique advantage where they have 15 to 20 different accounts where they're testing the same playbook. So what you can do is just, you know, plug all that context into Claude and then test variations of that playbook across 15 different variables and see what happens. And over time, if you migrate the results and data from all those tests into a database and study those over time, you'll end up with a better playbook the more you test and the faster you test, just by law of probability. And so I think that's a huge opportunity for agencies to do with AI. It's actually like fairly easy to do. I don't have a technical background myself. I know several marketers who are doing this already. So to your point about using AI to self-improve, that's where I would start.
I think that's really cool, by the way, the whole recursive learning idea and getting it to iterate towards a goal. Let's go to the other end of that. A lot of people I'm talking to are still relatively new with AI. We're just talking to the chat. I'm like that too. It's more just like conversational chat usage versus like plugging in MCPs or setting up skills for recursive learning. On that simple end, what are like some simple ways people can leverage AI to like improve their workflows?
Reporting. I think like no agency should be doing a manual report. I would just like, even if you have a team that doesn't know how to use AI, I would just give them a task of like, hey, you need to automate your report by the end of the week. Go and ask Claude how to do it. It's
Uh-huh.
connected directly to Cruva. It has all of the data you need to automate your affiliate reporting. And all you need to do is just ask it, here's my report, go into Claude Code plan mode, and just ask it to create a plan to turn that report into a skill. That's all you have to do. Like an elementary schooler could do that. Like just 3 simple steps. Take this transcript even, put it into Claude, and go automate your reporting. Like that's the very easiest thing to do. Like you're just typing English into Claude and you're saying, hey, I pull affiliate GMV, sample sent, creators outreach, response rate, conversion rate, video over GMV, conversion rate. Like I pull all this data manually every week and I need to send it to a client. Help me put this into a client facing report using Cruva's MCP. That's the easiest thing you can do this week.
And how do you ensure it'll give me 10 results that are the same? Let's say we build a skill and it's running those reports. Sometimes what I've seen is you get a drift, like it doesn't always do it consistently. Something will start kind of fading off. To give you an example, it might move one section down and then, like 10 more iterations later, it moves a section down again. Have you seen that or is that just me?
Are you talking about the report render looks sort of off or the output looks off?
Yeah, like the output, it won't stay consistent through like 100 iterations. It'll like start to shift a little bit every time.
Yeah. So there's like 2 things here that could play into this. One, there's something called like a context window. Within one chat, there's a limited amount of information that AI can actually process and act on. So if you're doing a bunch of reports in the same chat, essentially you're going to hit this like curve where all your report quality just goes down and down and down because the model
Yeah.
just like can't store enough context. So create new chats and skills. That's how you essentially ensure the best output. And what you'll notice is that even within Claude, it'll say, hey, save X, Y, and Z tokens by starting a new chat. Because essentially what's happening is that it's reading through everything in your chat and then doing your command first every single time. So if you have a ton of stuff in your chat, it's using all its brain power to process everything and then going with the small remaining amount to do your command, which doesn't seem very productive to me if you don't need it to do that, because reporting is very simple. AI understands how to automate reporting, so there's no need for it to go and consume all that context.
Right. You, in this case, you almost want to give it a little bit less context.
Yeah. Only what's needed.
You don't want like that clutter.
Yeah. Exactly.
Interesting. There's so many things to like unpack and learn about AI. Are you doing like any sort of like newsletter where you share this kind of stuff or socials or anything like that?
Yeah, you guys can check me out on LinkedIn. I don't post as much about like general AI stuff, more very specific applications to TikTok Shop, but maybe that'll change. I do have a LinkedIn newsletter called How Can I Automate Marketing? And the first thing I published on there was like an automated SEO script, plugging into Ahrefs, doing a gap analysis against competitors into like blogs that passed EEAT, and then pushing those there, and then a script that pushed that to your website. So like there's, things in there that I got curious about, but I try to stay focused on TikTok Shop because you know how social media algorithms are. They're just like so interest based.
I think AI is the coolest thing in the world. I know some people have a love-hate relationship with it, but I'm just like, this is the coolest shit ever, man. When I was a kid, like you wanted to know something, you had to go to your Encyclopedia Britannica, like pull down the H through J and look it up, man. And I'm like, now it's like I just have this conversation with Claude or ChatGPT. It's cool. I know we're bumping up on time here, but anything else really cool that you wanted to share that you're working on the AI space with TikTok that I didn't ask about?
So I think one of the coolest things about AI and TikTok is that you should be essentially trying to look at your entire affiliate marketing process and trying to figure out every single step that can be automated. So one pro tip I like to give agency founders is to just download a voice typing tool like Whisperflow or Super Whisper, whatever you guys use, and just like explain your entire like fulfillment process, or like put your SOP into there, ask AI where it can be automated. And then I like to plug it into Figma so that you have a full flow chart going over every single step, key decision process. I use like Six Sigma flowchart methodology so you can actually map out which one's a decision point with or like a decision point has like a yes or a no, right? And then a process point has something that can be fully automated. And so you can really map out your entire system, plug it into a software like Cruva or other softwares you use, and be like, hey, based off of all the tools, data, and this SOP, what percentage of my business can be automated right now? And like, what should I still be doing manually? And I think that's a good test because it'll essentially make you rethink how you're doing TikTok shop, and you'll figure out that it's more agentic than you really thought it could.
And you made a really cool point there, which is not just having that conversation with Claude, but also plugging it into Figma. I'm guessing Figma has a MCP, and then Claude can create that workflow visually for you in Figma.
Yeah, exactly. What I do with all my clients, especially on the agency side, is that I give them a full agency like flow chart, because a lot of agencies come to me and they're like, how do we just create an SOW? And I'm like, okay, this is like a huge thing. But I'm like, if we just map it out into like every single decision, taking a client from 0 to 90 days on a flow chart, suddenly everyone understands. And there's no like communication barrier. Because if you're giving them a doc, people just stop reading, they misinterpret words. But if you're giving them a visual, it's just a lot better. It's the universal method of communication.
100% agree. I always try to lean towards visual. Nobody wants to sit down and read a 10-page SOP. That is
exactly.
All education is just better visual.
Exactly.
Everybody go follow Sohun on LinkedIn. He's got a newsletter there. Go check him out at clankersapp.com, right? Reach out to him if you want to work together on building any sort of AI-based workflows for TikTok Shop. This is really his area of expertise and superpower. Appreciate you taking the time and sharing. Let's see here.
Of course. Thanks for having me.